Good evening, friends, and welcome to this press briefing on President's forthcoming visit to Russia. We have with us today Foreign Secretary Dr. S. Jaishankar. We have Dr. Rajamani Venu, Press Secretary to the President, and I have Mr. Shambhu S. Kumaran, Joint Secretary Eurasia, and I am Vikas Swarup, JSXP. So, without any further ado, may I turn it over to Foreign Secretary.
Good afternoon. I'm here to brief you about the President's visit to Russia, which begins tomorrow. The President would be traveling on the 7th and returning from Russia on the 11th. Now, the visit is at the invitation of President Putin, and this is to commemorate the 70th anniversary of Victory Day, to mark the victory of Russia in the Second World War. This would be President's first visit to Russia as President. He would be accompanied by the Minister of State for Railways, Sri Manoj Sinha, and he would also, and of course senior officials. He would have a delegation of Vice Chancellors and heads of national institutes with him. The main event, as I said, is the victory celebration, where we would have a 75-member Indian Army contingent from the Grenadiers who would be taking part in the military parade in Moscow. Apart from the President's participation in these events, he would be holding a bilateral meeting with President Putin. He will also have a separate meeting with rectors of important Russian universities and vice chancellors of important Indian universities who are traveling with him. So this would be held at the Lomonosov Moscow State University. In terms of outcomes, we are looking at an agreement in science and technology, which would be signed by the Department of Science and Technology and the Russian Science Foundation. There are also 8 MOUs which would be signed by higher education institutions. The President would be receiving an honorary doctorate conferred by the Diplomatic Academy of Russia. During his visits, he would be meeting leading Russian Indologists. Finally, he would be inaugurating the Namaste Russia cultural festival, which would commence from the time of his visit. Now, in terms of India-Russia relations, I think all of you know that this is a very special and privileged strategic partnership. It is certainly a relationship that is characterized by mutual trust, mutual understanding, and unique people-to-people relations. We've had 15 annual summits in the current format with the Russian President. Recently, during the Russian President's visit to India in December, the two countries agreed on a vision for strengthening the partnership over the next decade. So right now, what we have ongoing between India and Russia are the discussions and activities which are designed to translate that vision into outcomes. Now, we have, just to give you the highlights of some aspects of our relationship. Defense cooperation, of course, is very much at the center of our relationship. And we are today trying to move towards joint research and development and joint manufacturing. We have a tradition of joint exercises with Russia that are expanding. Nuclear energy, civilian nuclear energy cooperation is another very long-standing area of cooperation with Russia. And we had agreed during the December summit to set up more joint working groups. These have now started to happen. The first working group has met. The others will be meeting soon. And we hope to take forward the intended expansion of civil nuclear energy cooperation with Russia. Space, too, is an important area of cooperation with Russia. And we have been working on space applications and space transportation, satellite navigation, and space science and planetary exploration. And recently, the chairman of Roscosmos, the Russian space agency, was here. On the economic and trade side, we have a joint study group, and the intent of that is to explore the conclusion of a comprehensive economic cooperation agreement between India and the Eurasian Economic Union, of which Russia is a member. So the preparatory meeting of that has taken place. We also, among the other significant areas of economic cooperation with Russia, are working with them to increase direct diamond exports to India. That's also work under progress. As also operationalization of the international north-south corridor, transport corridor. And we do hope that Russian investments in India in different infrastructure projects, in smart cities, in Make in India programs, that these would grow. On the science and technology side, as I informed you, we will be signing an agreement between DST and Russian Science Foundation, which is on basic and exploratory scientific research. And on the culture side, I mentioned Namaste India. On the education side, different universities and institutes would be signing bilateral agreements. And this was something which was envisaged in December when the summit took place. Overall, again, Russia is one of our closest international partners. It is a country which has supported our candidature for the permanent seat in the UN Security Council. We consult very closely on G20 issues, on East Asia Summit issues. We are both members of the BRICS and of the RIC. And Russia is supportive of India's membership of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And even on the global regime memberships, NSG, MTCR, Australia Group, Wassenaar, Russia has been broadly supportive. We share our positions on international issues are very, very highly convergent. Particularly, I think we share common positions on countering terrorism. And Russia also supports the adoption of a comprehensive convention on international terrorism. So that's broadly the description of the state of our relationship and of the program that the Honorable President would be undertaking while in Moscow. As a point of general information, I would say that as per our current information, there would be 16 presidents who would be coming to Moscow for the Victory Day commemoration, apart from a number of vice presidents, prime ministers, and foreign ministers. So I think that's the broad picture, and if you have any questions, I'd be delighted to answer.
Thank you, sir. I now turn to the Press Secretary to the President in case he needs to add something to what Foreign Secretary has just said.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Vikas. Thank you, sir. Just a few points very quickly. One, as has already been explained by the Foreign Secretary, the President considers Russia an extremely important country and the relationship a very special and unique relationship. He is extremely happy to visit Russia once again, the first time in his capacity as President of India. The President believes that the function, the main event he is going for is a very important commemoration. The Second World War was one of the most determining events of the 20th century. The role of Russian soldiers and civilians changed the course of war, and not only the outcome of the war, but also the future of the world. This was achieved at the cost of tremendous suffering on the part of the Soviet people and the Russian nation at that point of time. Indian soldiers, tens of thousands of Indian soldiers also sacrificed their lives in this war. So the President is very happy to be part of this commemorative event, which actually recognizes the monumental contributions of Russia to the victory over Nazism. He is particularly happy that an Indian military contingent for the very first time will be part of this victory parade. This trip for the President is also a down the memory lane trip. The President has visited Russia many, many times. He has interacted with Russian leaders in various capacities over long years. In particular, he was the designated representative of the Government of India to attend the 50th anniversary celebrations in 1995. He was, as External Affairs Minister, he visited Moscow, he visited St. Petersburg, he saw the parade which was organized at that time. He particularly remembers very fondly the contingent of veterans who had actually participated in the war, who also were part of the parade in 1995. He also went to St. Petersburg at that time and paid homage at the Martyrs Memorial, which is established there. The Foreign Secretary briefed about the fact that leaders of a number of higher education institutions are part of the delegation. There will be discussions, there will be agreements. This, as many of you would be aware, is part of a continuing focus by the President ever since he assumed office on improving the quality of higher education within the country. Almost every foreign trip that he has taken, he has had vice chancellors and directors of IITs and NITs go along with him. He has also been organizing every year conferences of Central University vice chancellors, IIT directors, NITs, etc. here in Rashtrapati Bhavan to discuss the state of higher education in the country. One of the important recommendations out of all these conferences is the fact that our institutions need to expand their international contacts and international linkages. So this visit and this delegation accompanying the President hopefully will provide a major impetus to helping our institutions expand their contacts across the world. Lastly, the Foreign Secretary mentioned that the President will be receiving an honorary doctorate on this visit. The President, this is the third honorary doctorate that he would be receiving. The first one was from Dhaka University in 2013. Last year, he received a honorary doctorate from Calcutta University, and this is the third honorary doctorate that he is receiving. Lastly, some of the recollections the President had in the context of this visit was regarding Rabindranath Tagore, who has had a long and abiding relationship with Russia. Tagore visited Russia in 1930 and wrote a number of letters back to various people, his relatives, his friends, which was published in Bengali as Letters from Russia. It took a lot of time for it to be translated into English because the British thought that it was very critical of the British administration. It was also not published in Russian because the Soviets thought that it was critical of the Soviet administration. In 1930, when Tagore visited, Tagore sang the Janagana Mana during a visit to a young pioneers commune. And in 1941, just before the end of the war, Tagore was extremely concerned with the progress of the war and there are records showing that he was very unhappy when the Soviet forces fell back, and he was extremely happy when the Soviet forces advanced. He was fully confident that victory over fascism and Nazism would be achieved at the time. And these are some of the issues that the President would be talking about in his interactions with various leaders during this commemorative function. Thank you.
We will now have a short Q&A session. Please identify yourself and the organization that you represent.
So, I am Akhilesh Suman from Rajya Sabha Television. We have a very good relationship on nuclear issues with Russia. So, what is the hiccups now that we are taking so much time in concluding and joint commission making?
No, there are no hiccups as such. I think what we are looking at with Russia is additional units of nuclear power as well as a larger, broader program of a much more ambitious nuclear program. But we had agreed that we need to, in a sense, to discuss a more expanded program. We would have to engage in a much closer collaborative conversation. So in fact, the three joint working groups that were agreed on, one was on nuclear power, one was on the fuel cycle, and one was on science and technology. So the intent is that if these joint working groups meet, their discussions would allow the nuclear cooperation to unfold more vigorously. There are, conceptually, no particular obstacles for the growth of nuclear cooperation with Russia. Yes, of course, very much so.
I'm Ashok B. Sharma, a freelancer. I want to know, you mentioned about the direct import of diamond by India. Last time during Putin-Modi meeting, in the Putin-Modi meeting last time, it was decided that there should be direct sale of diamonds to India. What's the problem? Why it has not materialized?
My understanding here is that to materialize it requires mutually acceptable arrangements between the two countries, which would be a regulatory framework for the direct import of diamonds, and those are still under discussion. So this is work in progress, and our expectation is that this would materialize.
Sir, I'm Manu Pabi from the Economic Times. Sir, you spoke about military relations, but there have been a few concerns in the past few months, especially on Russia exporting some of their equipment to Pakistan. And a few days back, we had report that they're exporting their latest air defense missile system to the Chinese. Are these topics that will be discussed during the meeting? Will we raise our concerns, sir?
Look, I would say I'd make 2 points to you. One, that India, we often use the word time tested. We use the word trusted. I think those are really words which could literally apply to India-Russia relations. I mean, because this is a relationship which is, of course, between the governments, but it's something which is very deep. I mean, I think the average Indian has a high degree of empathy with Russia. So, in terms of the strategic intent and character of the relationship, I don't think anybody would really dispute that this is one of our strongest strategic partnerships. In terms of our own defense cooperation with Russia, it is very solid. Again, it has a historical basis. There is a fairly sort of a robust menu currently under discussion between the two systems. And traditionally, many of these issues tend to be resolved or discussed really in mechanisms which are dedicated to that. So where this visit is concerned, obviously the President would focus, part of it is the commemoration ceremony, but in the bilateral meeting with Putin, our expectation is that everything bilateral, everything regional, whatever is topical, bilateral, regional, global, will all come up for discussions. Generally, I would hesitate to predict what leaderships discuss.
Artyom Sanzuev from Russian daily Российская газета. You mentioned that the Minister of State of Railways will accompany President. Any joint projects also will be discussed in this area? I mean, railways.
We do have discussions between India and Russia on railways, but on this particular case, the intent is not sectoral. I think the minister is accompanying the president because it's a tradition in our system that whenever the president travels abroad, a minister accompanies the president.
Good afternoon. My name is Alexander. I'm from TASS, news agency of Russia. And the question is, you mentioned the universities cooperation between our countries. Could you please specify on what will be the main interest for the Indian and Russian universities during this trip of Mr. Mukherjee, and which universities will be represented from Indian side? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, I can do better than that. I can even give you the universities on the Russian side. We have on the Indian side, Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Bombay, IIT Madras. We have IIT Delhi. We have the University of Delhi. We have also the Institution of Engineers. We have the Indian Statistical Institute. So we have 3 IITs. We have Delhi University, Institution of Engineers, and the Indian Statistical Institute. In the case of Russia, my understanding is that it's Tomsk State University, the Ural Federal University, there's a Tomsk Polytechnic University, Skolkovo Institute of Science and Technology, the Higher School of Economics of Moscow, the Lomonosov Moscow State University, and the Russian Union of Scientific and Engineering Associations. So we expect during this visit to have 9 agreements concluded, 1, as I said, in science and technology, and 8 between the higher education institutions. Okay, I think we're done.
If there are, okay.
Sir, Richard Verma has today spoken out against the Indian position on NGOs. Would you like to react to that, sir?
So enjoy. Richard Verma is the ambassador of the United States. This is a briefing on the president's visit to Russia.
If you
I think we'll let it rest.
I think that's the answer. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.